Two rivers and a mountain border our land. South Marlborough is a place of stunning vistas and strong community. From the heights of the majestic Mount Tapuai o Kuanuku, down the Awateri and Waiotoa rivers to the coast. Let us take you off the grid on an adventure to discover South Marlborough. Maunga Awa Moana.
If you go right back, it started with Dad wanting to be a farmer. We chose the name because it means cliff or precipice, and Awateri means swift flowing river. This results in us having steep cliffs and bluffs all the way up. It's almost like a gorge in some places. We have 3 different terraces in the vineyard. The bottom terrace we call Boulder Flat, and it's actually got all these rocks lining the rows of the vines. That's where the wine for the grapes for our Sauvignon Blanc and our Boulder Rose Sauvignon Blanc comes from.
My father was a school teacher.
Yeah, school teachers don't generally own farms, and so went off and did chemical engineering, and then finally came back and achieved his dream of farming in 1988. Mum came back and took over. I don't know that was Mum's dream.
Well, she supported it, that was the key thing.
Yep. And we had this lovely couple move into the cottage, Sharon and Glenn. And I think Glenn had some farming advice for Dad, did you?
Farming advice? No, I suggested vineyards. I'm not much of a farmer, but I knew about vineyards.
We looked at, I came and showed Glenn the flats behind us here, and Glenn looked across the river at the vineyard across the way and said, those vines produce some of the greatest flavours in the valley. Dave, sell your sheep and plant grapes.
So about 10 years after that, Mum and Dad finally decided that they wanted to plant grapes and that they wanted Glenn to be their partner in making a wine company. So here we are with Two Party, and I came along about 5 years after that and became a part of it. We do 3 Rieslings, so dry, medium and sticky, which is a dessert wine. We do 2 Sauvignon Blancs, so a more traditional Marlborough style of Sauv, which is crisp and fresh, and then a barrel fermented Sauv, which is complex and textural and really exciting. We also do a lovely Pinot Noir, a Pinot Gris and a Rosé.
Well, I think your plan was Tahi to set up a building company down the coast somewhere, but you made the mistake of leaving Tahi with us at home while you and Mum went away on a wine sales trip. And so Tahi and I went out on the farm several days in a row, sitting around the fire having a beer one night, and Tahi says, "What's with this farming bit, Dave?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind going farming." And that was it. So Tahi came on board, and he got an apprenticeship about 18 months, I think, and then got left to it. It was pretty impressive to take over after only 18 months. Remember that?
I do, yeah. No, it was. It's been great. It was a good time to do something new and a new opportunity, and yeah, really enjoyed the farming. Really enjoyed the deer. Really enjoy the focus on the deer, and they work really well with the climate here in Marlborough. The velvet with the dry, so it complements the wine company really well. Yeah, it's a good fit. Yeah, we're very reliable through that spring period.
And the dry autumn,
it's good for the grapes.
They eat very little, but the stags eat very little, so that fits there.
Yeah, and over the summer they don't need any maintenance, so when we're very dry for months without any rain, they can just withstand that dry.
Yeah, because they're mature stock as well.
Yeah, they're mature animals, you don't need to feed out to them, which means you can actually carry a higher stocking rate. So yeah, it just really fits Marlborough.
And that lets us save the water for the grapes.
Exactly.
Which need it, but they need the dry.
Yeah, during harvest we need it dry. Yeah. It's not much to ask, all of that.
We recently, a couple of years ago, got the opportunity to come into the station here. Previous owner decided she wanted to sell. They wanted to preserve it for the community, so we wanted to help support that. And of course it gave us the opportunity to open the cellar door. So that's been a really cool development for us. So we have 8 different wines, all available for a complimentary tasting at our cellar door here on the State Highway 1. It's 8 Mills Street. So come in and visit us.
When we decided to call the business Bespoke Furniture, people said that they wouldn't know what it meant and it wouldn't work. But it's surprising people have become aware of the term, and it means making things or doing work specifically for a customer's requirements, whether that be whatever the service is. Bespoke means doing it as an individual service for the customer. Recently I've been working on this Victorian sideboard, probably about 170 years old, and it's a family heirloom from a house that was damaged and actually demolished in the earthquake. We'll remove the watermarks in the top and colour in all the patches and then polish them so that all the polish matches the original. This is a Victorian inverted brake front sideboard, and it's come in for repair. The house that it came from had to be demolished because of earthquake damage, but I love to preserve those things. For example, this piece of furniture is probably about 170 years old, and now with a bit of TLC, it should, there's no reason why it couldn't last another 170 years. I think people find old pieces of furniture that have been in their family or they have a connection to from the past, and they value that continuation of the history and the memory that those pieces of furniture bring back.
But no, you did a beautiful job, Carl. We're really, really proud of this. Really love having this in the home. These ledges under here, Mum went and got it from the old house, and we found crusts on there that were 30 years old. Mum reckons they were my aunt's.
How cool! So that's all still part of the family heritage.
We got together about 2 years ago and came up with this idea that we'd start a cafe, which was a little bit crazy at the time, but we've done really well and we're working really hard.
I mostly am out the front and Kate's in the kitchen.
Kuku's worked a lot with coffee making, and I've done a lot in the kitchen, but I've also done a lot with coffee, so we both had that versatility. We tend to do a lot of classic food. We don't want to overcomplicate our food, so it's lots of hearty and lots of time healthy. We do have your cakes as well, which is not so healthy, but it's something that you always remember as a child as having nice, fresh food, so that's what we wanted to replicate.
We have a breakfast and a lunch menu that just provides the good basic breakfast with bacon and eggs Benedict, all day breakfast, as well as our lunch. We have a seafood chowder, a couple of salads, and then we just cater in the cabinet for that food.
So we're a sheep and cattle property, and we're about 1,000 feet above sea level with terrible soil. I always told everyone I was going to marry someone with good soil next time, but I think I've left my run too late, I'm afraid. I love the quote that Gertrude Jekyll said, that a garden should curtsy to the house. And I absolutely love the old homestead. It's a 130-year-old colonial homestead, and so that is where I started my gardening. The drive up is not the expectation. The garden is a surprise to them because it's very dry. We're in a very dry part of area of New Zealand, and so I think it is a total surprise for them. Although people do say it's a very beautiful drive up because of course we're dominated by Mount Tapiwanuku, and they love that. They love the drive up the valley to the garden. So I wanted some water, and that was a naturally low-lying area. It was very boggy, and so we excavated it up, and we're clay, so we didn't need to line it. And planted the willow. The willow then drank all the water, so we did have to line it, and Joe created the boardwalk round it. It's a very favoured part of the garden. People seem to like it, and it's always lovely and cool, once again in our summers. There's no underground aquifer in this valley. I was very lucky. By the time I married Joe, the council and local farmers had put in the black birch scheme, which meant that I had access to reliable water, and I could then start gardening I think it's therapeutic. I think you can go and lose yourself out in the garden. I still can garden all day, happily, and I can come in at night, so I can still do miner's lamp when I'm getting ready, and it gives me great pleasure.
Two rivers and a mountain border our land. South Marlborough is a place of stunning vistas and strong community. From the heights of the majestic Mount Tapuai o Guanuku, down the Awateri and Waiotoa rivers to the coast. Let us take you off the grid on an adventure to discover South Marlborough. Maunga Awa Moana.
So we bought the property in 1999 and it was a fairly barren, very windswept property. I'd always wanted to grow a little patch of native bush, so I thought I would do that, but I also loved the formal gardens of Europe. So I thought, well, why bring all these foreign exotic plants into New Zealand when I could grow New Zealand natives, 80% of which are not found anywhere else in the world. So I decided to do a formal garden using New Zealand natives. The bluff was the most important part, really, of our whole view, although we centred the view on Mount Arotea. So this area started probably about 2 years ago, and it's completely different from the other part of the garden because I decided I wanted to plant perennials to make a habitat for butterflies mostly, and bees and all the other little insects. And so I've planted plants with nectar and grasses and in a natural style, just to create a habitat, the habitat attractive to every type of little animal.
We were looking to produce something that was healthy for people and that fitted with their beliefs about looking after the environment and the planet. We thought honey ticks all the boxes. It's an amazing natural product. Rolling, dry, windswept hills describes the landscape. It's very hard farming and you're one rain away from a drought. The landscape here in Lake Grasmere, being situated on the Pacific coast, beside Cape Campbell Lighthouse, can be very harsh. It's a case of finding where the bees do best. We have beautiful wildflowers that grow on the sheltered plains and flats. Some sites are amazing, and you can't see anything. So you think, oh, this is not going to be that great, and the bees thrive. You find another site, you think, oh, this is amazing, you know, and they struggle. The dominant flower around Grasmere is borage, is a beautiful honey, and it does well on the east coast of Marlborough. I think it's one of the main places where you get good borage from. So that's a really good one, and Matagari is another good east coast nectar that's around this area. We think our honey is very healthy. It's only coarsely filtered, so it contains propolis, wax, pollen. All the goodness is still in there. It's unpasteurized, so all that healthiness is retained in the honey. Mainly borage, I'd say.
Meadow is my favorite. It is a really special honey. Our meadow honey is very light in appearance and mild in flavour. It's a very good old-fashioned table honey.
I think I like the wildflower because it's harder to get out here. This is the wildflower honey. It's richer in colour and flavour. We really want to try and show that you can grow businesses sustainably that's good for the environment and produce food that's healthy for people.
Fine built. And I love that we have been patient enough to left it on its lease for 40 months before this gorging. Our winery is Clos Marguerite, which is a big honor for me because the real guy is Jean-Charles, who is behind this project. So we are here in the Awatere. Our winery is really the story of us, of our life.
I started working here in Marlborough for Corbin's Wines. And then we actually bought this place in '97, so quite early on. First vines were planted in 2000, and the first harvest was 2002. If we had to, we could pick that now, actually. But we're going to wait a little longer. Marguerite created that label. It's her drawing. Its balance, its elegance, its strengths, all those points are really crucial and are really linked to what we want to achieve in wine.
Really, for my family, how I've been brought up as wine is a ceremony when you open the bottle and they open it. It takes time and they're just not cracking the cork and cleaning the top to make sure there is no left of dust of cork, so it will be as pure and as perfect as possible.
And that's what's fantastic about wine, is that we're lucky enough to make a product that not only reflects where it comes from and how it's made. You can many years later open a bottle and relive what it was then. You know, it's linked to the people who actually made it, the people that toiled in the vineyard that year, and of course it reflects the vintage and how the people reacted to the weather at the time, etc. So it is quite emotional opening an old bottle, and it's a pleasure, of course.
I'm Mandy. I am a chef and nutritionist, and I live and work here in Seddon in South Marlborough. The sort of people that I generally work with are people that have chronic health conditions that they've struggled with for quite a long time and maybe haven't found answers to yet through the traditional medical system. So my nutrition philosophy is pretty much summed up by my two favourite phrases, and they are, firstly, when it comes to nutrition, the science is complex but the application is simple. And then secondly, just eat real food. So rather than talking about should we eat this, shouldn't we eat that, is it good, is it bad, let's talk about what it does in our body. How does that food benefit us, or conversely not benefit us? What does our body actually need to be healthy? And answering that question gives a lot of solidarity to then what we do, and so that's when the practical application part comes in. How do we actually take that knowledge and apply it in our day-to-day life and use it to inform what we cook in our kitchens and what we eat and what we feed our families? And that's where real food comes in. Real food is the food that our ancestors ate. It's the food that our grandparents ate. It's the food that grows here in our local in our gardens, in our local communities and on our farms. It's the food that's in season, it's the food that's fresh, and it's the food that the earth provides for us. The thing is that food is more than just fuel for our body. It's information to ourselves, but it also emotionally connects us to our culture and our traditions. As a nutritionist, what I really want to do is move away from that diet and that restrictive mentality that can come with the whole nutrition kind of field, and help people rediscover and reconnect with that real food, the food that humans have eaten for so long, and the food that fuels us and makes us feel good.